Good afternoon and welcome back to Cayman Conversations. I'm Ralph Lewis, and today joining me for his first conversation on Cayman Conversations is Mr. Mark Langevin, President of the Cayman Islands Tourist Association, CETA, and also General Manager of the Ritz-Carlton. In previous appearances on our other show, The Panel, we welcome Mr. Langevin's candid responses and his willingness to answer our questions. Today, we'll speak about the Ritz-Carlton Latest Award and the groundwork that elevated the hotel to its prestigious level. And also during the show, we will switch gears and speak about Cayman's plan to recovery for the tourist industry. Now let's get started. Good afternoon, Mark. How are you today?
Good afternoon, and congratulations on your new show. I feel very honored to be one of your first, if not the first, interviewee. And thank you very much for inviting me. I guess my candid conversation of the past does not scare you.
Well, it's just good to have someone that you know that can answer questions and actually speak from the heart and speak the truth. And that's so good about you. You're always willing to go. You change up your diary just to accommodate us. As you know, we're just fine-tuning Cayman Conversations. It's our first show. On Tuesday, we had a gentleman from the CIS, which was the Cayman National School, and one of his students. The show went very well, but we're still fine-tuning. And, we're live now on Bobo FM 89.1. And so we're on the airwaves as well as live on YouTube and Facebook. So we're getting there. And the whole idea is to have a show that everyone can come on and talk about community events and what happens in our community. So that's what it's all about. And we're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. And we hope you'll come back again.
Always happy to join the conversation. Obviously, it's unfortunately we are not back to business for normal. So I think until we get there, I think I will certainly share update. I think the community needs to understand what our current struggles, what we are looking forward for midterm, short term, long terms. I think we have to make sure that we are all understanding what is going to be the evolution moving forward. In the meantime, you mentioned earlier about the Forbes award, and thank you for mentioning that. It's not as my role in the CETA, but that recognition is something that it's well deserved for our, what we call them, the ladies and gentlemen of the Ritz-Carlton, our employees. We are very, very, very proud. It's there is a lot of different type of recognition in the world. There is different type of company. They are recognizing, hospitalities, restaurant. There is so many different awards. The Forbes 5-star is one of them, and it's a very, very different optic. Everybody's sometimes has different optic. Although there is a mobile diamonds, there is a Michelin star, there is different things. Forbes is looking at yes, the product has to be exceptional, the service has to be exceptional, but they have a certain focus on the genuine, personalized service, on the anticipation of the guest need, on, a little bit more emotional as far as the reward. And it takes a certain type of individual to be able to achieve that. And to know that, with the quantity of employees we have here in our hotels, we're able to achieve that. It's an amazing recognition for us. We're very, very proud for our ladies and gentlemen. Everybody always assumes that Ritz-Carlton is 5-star, 6-star. It doesn't exist. It's not happening like that. And actually, the journey to achieve the 5-star took us several years, because you have to have all the division, all the departments synchronized to be able to. It's not just one individual that is good or one department is good. It doesn't matter if it's from the beginning, from the reservation system to the front desk experience, to the experience in the restaurant, in the rooms, and the auditor, the people they come and they are unexpected visits, and we don't even know because they never signal their presence, nor during or between and afters. And when we receive that reward, is certainly was a very feel good for everybody in the hotel, because that is what we are looking for to create in our hotel.
Yes, and that's very good indeed. Is it the only 5-star hotel in the Cayman Islands?
In the Cayman, yes. There are others in the Caribbean. The issue we have with our resort, to be a 5 stars, it's sometimes a little bit easier with a smaller property, the small boutique hotel.
Yes.
The challenge we have at the Ritz-Carlton Grand Cayman, it's a very large hotel
Yes.
where we have almost 400 rooms, plus we have such a very complex environment with so many amenities and so on. So again, the complexity is having a 5 star with such a large unit. Usually larger hotel like that are more into the 4 star, which is already a very amazing
Right.
achievement. But achieving the 5 star, it's certainly a different level.
Yes. Well, I'm so happy that we have a five-star hotel here. I know that in the past, we have government officials speaking about the type of tourism that we want to attract. And basically, the idea is that we can't attract everyone because we are so small, but we need to be able to attract those individuals who will come and spend and understand that there is a market for five-star accommodation. And so to know that Cayman Islands has one of those accommodations of similar or close to that level, it's good to know that we can attract those people that we want to cater to because we're not Miami Beach, we're not Jamaica, we're not other islands in the Caribbean. We are very small and limited to the number of people we can accommodate. So we have to price ourselves that way and sort of aim towards that. We're going to switch gears a bit, and we probably might touch back on the Ritz Carlton later on in the program. But I want to get an update on how we are doing in the recovery.
Where are
Uh,
we?
where are we? And as the president of CETA, I'm sure you're the guy who will put us on track. In the past, you gave us some numbers, and we were surprised. But bring us up to date on what's happening over there.
So obviously there is the industry is complex because there is different level of recovery. There is a hotel, the accommodation, freestanding. There is a cruise ship industry, and there is a restaurant, and there is different recovery at different time, um, and it has been evolving also at a different speed, depending on where we were. Obviously, I think we already talked in one of our last show about what happened in January, February. So we're going to put that behind. Then we
Yes.
went through that period, which was what we call the spring break, the U.S. spring break that
Right.
stretched pretty much from the mid-March to the mid-April. So there was pretty strong. And in general, hotels were experiencing somewhere around 50-60% occupancy. I mean, actually, we probably have to start first with the airplane because they are the one they bring the
Yes.
passenger. So
Yes.
the airlines, when we measured the capacity of the airline, they were somewhere onto the 70% capacity of air landing compared to what we had back in 2019 as a
Yes.
reference
Okay.
year. So we knew, therefore, that the capacity would be limited because you have less airline, less seats capacity. So therefore, the hotel were being around that number, around the 50-60%, depending, on the hotels and the size and so on. The residents actually had actually a higher occupancy sometimes, especially because it was boosted by a lot of residents owner coming back.
Right.
People they have not
Of course.
used their property for 2 years and finally able to come here because the environment was easier. No more testing and all
Of
those
course. Yes.
regulation we had in place. So actually, some of the condominium and especially the timeshare, those were actually very full, and they are still actually as of today very high end because people want to come back and use their property. And because of that, actually, most of the restaurant
Right.
actually had a very good March and April. Except some of the restaurants were sometimes more depending on tourism.
Right.
So I must say that it was certainly a feel good. Now, on anything that's to do with retail and the downtown was a different because it came a little bit after, and you can
Right.
follow the news, and it's still not stabilized. I think from the point of view of accommodation restaurant right now, we have a pretty much stable environment at that 50-60% occupancy.
Right.
As far all the downtown business and all the retails, first of all, not everybody decided to reopen because is the and predict it's not predictable. It's too much, 2 days a week occupied and now 5 days
Yes,
without
yes,
business. So because it's not a stable environment, some smaller business did not feel that it was the right things to do, because when you start, you need to restaff, remobilize employees, start to put everybody back on health insurance and so on. But the cost of reopening were not necessarily justified compared to the unpredictability of
definitely.
the business, and also not steady enough. So there is still downtown a 40-60% ratio right now.
Mhm.
Some people decide not to open, and the business itself is still not the level from what I have heard from various retailer. First of all, not everybody is coming off the ship like before, so potentially less. So even if we have less boat, but also potentially less population going through the hurdles that it takes. And on top of that, not necessarily the same spending
All
at
right,
this
yes.
point in the game. I don't know if it's because the type of cruise ship that comes right now is not the high level. I'm not necessarily fully specialized in cruise ship, but
Yes.
there are some comments that potentially those ships are not representing the luxury uh, of the
Passengers.
cruise ship,
Yes.
and then at the same time, others passengers have as much discretionary fund that before. So there is still right now hesitation in that business. So it's not, as you can see, it's not all equal. Some people have done
Right.
better, some have
Yes,
been
it
a bit
does.
less behind. But the most important is the business is back.
Okay,
We are
good.
back in the game, and while it's not perfect, we are moving forward, and that is
Okay.
certainly if you compare year over year, what a different place.
Well, it's good to hear that it's on a positive note. We're moving forward. We were shut down for around 2 years. It must take some time to get the momentum. We took a number of years before we got to the levels that we were,
Yeah.
and so therefore, I think that with everything coming to a standstill, and we're still battling with COVID increases um, on a lower level, but it will take some time for us to get back there, and for visitors to feel comfortable enough to jump on those cruise ships and come on land.
Mhm.
We actually track cruise ship visits here at the Cayman Times on every Friday. We do have a page where we show the number of cruise ships and the names and the number of passengers coming in. And yes, we probably have average 5 ships a week and around 12 to 15,000 passengers, which is a small number. But like you said, it is an improvement from where we were. And just to see cruise ships in the water outside the port while they're flying in, it's a good feeling because we're getting back to where we were. I think that's the message we have to send now. We're not going to be where we were 2 years ago. I wish we were that way too, but we're actually seeing an improvement. And just like a child growing up, he doesn't become a man overnight. He goes through the stages of of
Correct.
maturity, and so it's a good feel, and you just confirmed it that there is an improvement and increase. And the next question is, how long will it take for us to get there?
So I think there's going to be for the I would call that the midterm, because some of them is short and some is for the fall. We have to set the two next big goals. One is summertime, and there is not so much we can influence for the summer, but there is still something we can do to be the best summer we can. I would suggest what can we do in the next 60 days to really maximize that, because we need that. Everybody needs that, because we started late, because we unfortunately had to pretty much lose Christmas and January and February, and just started at mid-March to get a little bit of a momentum. We are far, even if finally we see some cash coming in in the cash register, we are far because we lost our most important season. So we got to figure out how can we ensure that all those businesses are keep on functioning through June, July, August, and lose less as they can during those months before we talk about the next big things we need to talk after that is about where do we want to be in November, when we restart, our new season of 22-23.
Yes.
So I think there is two big target here that we need to really understand is what is in the short term, what is the best things we can do to save the summer and do as much as we can to allow our small business, our employees, and everybody to, be able to survive through that. Because we
Yes.
know that no matter what we do, September, October is always going to
Yes.
be a slowdown. So how
That's
can
right.
we maintain momentum in the summertime and do the best summer we can? And after that is how can we really position ourselves for the best season 23 we can be.
Okay. Yes. Um, and like you said, Mark, normally our slow period is July, August, September. I remember that in
Well, not
September.
necessarily July. I
Not
don't
July.
agree.
Oh,
Sorry to cut you because people think that, and it's not true.
okay.
It might be July and August are still a decent months. I know in
Okay.
our hotel, especially, we can, again, it depends on the industry, but in the hotel industry, we are still achieving back in 2019, we were at 85% occupancy, 90 occupancy. So depending on the brand, depending on the hotel, accommodation might be a little, some of the condominium might be a little bit lower because we don't have that
Okay.
winter season.
Right.
But you will be surprised that we still are fairly busy in the summertime.
Okay. Like I said earlier, I'm learning every day, and this is why we have people like you come on and educate us because we drive by, we don't go in the hotels, and we expect that okay, it's summertime, and we hear that okay, it's not winter, people are going other places, but we don't realize that there is business during the summertime in some locations as we confirm,
Absolutely.
which is good. But I know for sure that in September many restaurants close, and that's a good time for them to send the staff on vacation and do the spring cleaning and maintenance. And is that still going to happen this year for you in September?
Well, it's interesting because of the remobilization of employees has been delayed. Some people just arrived now. And that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for some operations. Some people, I would suggest, like in a cruise ship industry, that is going to be their challenge. Anybody that's around the retail, water sports, transportation, they're going to have to make some very calculated decision because if they don't hire now, will they be able to hire on time for the fall?
Right.
But if they hire now, will there be enough business to support
Yes.
themselves during this period? So that is where it's going to be a little bit difficult for every business. So on one sense is how much risk, and two is what is a trust for the future. So we need to talk about that trust for
Mhm.
what it could be for the fall. Some
Right.
other business, restaurant, for example, I believe have been more successful. Most of them are establishing some business model that had been consistent
Yes.
with the support of the local community, plus the residents, owners coming back, or those condominium on the island, or source housing. So they're being more consistent. So most of them most likely will need to take a break, as you say,
Yes.
because to get ready for the next season. So
Yes.
it's a reality. It's the same thing for the hotels. Right now, we are in the same situation. Is we are staffed now to a level that allow us to finally able to take care of the business to a comfortable at that 60%, 70% margin. So how do we keep on? Do we keep on,
Yes.
recruiting
Yes.
to make sure that we continue our momentum to lead us to a full recovery for the fall, or do we stop and then take the risk that
Yes.
they are not
Yes.
coming later on, and then there will be a failure. So everybody is right now, and actually CETA is going to have in a general session coming up at the end of the month, in the May 30th. I'm sure you're going to come and join us.
Yes.
And that is what we're going to try to share with our members. It says, okay, that is what is our journey so far, looking at the first
Right.
4 months of
Yes.
the year. That is where we stand, and we're trying to provide the best information we have per each sectors, because each sectors has different challenges.
Right. Yes.
Water sport is different than accommodation, transport, and I mean tourism is a very large industry. So kind of giving them the best information we can, and then try to allow them to make the right decision for their business. And
That's
we
right.
will have also in our next AGM the Departmental of Tourism is committed to come and join us to
Right.
also showing them how they're going to promote and ensuring that we have, the summer and the fall supporting our industry. So it's every business is going to have to make tough decision,
Yeah.
and calculate the risk moving forward.
Okay. Well, you actually read my mind because of my next questions about being prepared for the improvement in business. It's like with a small business, you start off, you have to do budgeting, you have to do forecasting. And that is so important as we go along. And what the good thing is that we did well 2 years ago. And there's no reason why we should not do better this time. And so if you think of it that way, that yes, you already had the customers. It may be slow now in starting getting to that point, but if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the staff, if you don't have the equipment, you might be caught with your feet in the water because the business will come and you'll be able to get it. So we have to take a risk at some point and prepare ourselves for what's going to come. I firstly feel confident that we will get back to where we were for many reasons. Yes, there's talk about a recession in the States, but we're still seeing people, or a planned recession in the States by some people that may say so, but there's still people traveling. And it comes back to the type of tourism that we're trying to attract. We're still a small destination. We don't have to get 5 million or 12 million people coming here to do well. We can do well with 2 million tourists and 500,000 over, people staying overnight. So that's important that we are prepared for what may come in the future. And so I'll bring my question back up. Are we prepared? Are those businesses prepared, staff wise, to handle the business that may come in the winter season? Or do we have to do extra work now to be prepared for that?
Now we have to do a lot of extra work. So I'm going to go back first for the short term, the summertime, before we look at the work, because I can talk 2 hours on the on the subject of the preparation, but I
We
don't
have
want to
time.
forget that we cannot give up the summer. So, for example, because it's all tied together. You mentioned it's airline, it's remobilization of staff, it's equipment, it's product. So everything has to be work together. And one of the things, by the way, is also regulation, because as you say, things are getting better. At the same time, there is still competition. The potentially the pool of travelers has shrinked a little bit because there are people they're already in recession of some kind or have lost so much money. Yes, it's true there is still money out there. People are eager to travel, but the travelers. Let's talk about the traveler first, because that's the one who's going to take the
Yes.
plane. They are going to always choose, or most of them are going to choose the point of less resistance. And you can hear in the news on a regular basis other districts releasing their regulation. I mean, I was
Yes.
looking yesterday, Italia is stopping, the vaccination. You look in the Caribbean closer from us, we had some change in regulation, and they always come up. Jamaica released some, Turks and Caicos did, Puerto Rico and the USVI are doing, 90% occupancy because they never had any regulation with the US citizen.
Right.
Aruba is also as released. So as a lot of other destinations are releasing and making their regulation easier, their process easier to try to welcome as much tourism as you can, because everybody is struggling right now, domestically in all those countries. We are still potentially one of the hardest to come in the Caribbean right now. So it is there are
Really?
regulation in place currently that is going to put a hurdle for somebody. It doesn't matter if you talk about
Okay.
the form that need to be handling. So I'm used to it. I already I've been traveling, so for me it's natural. But I can tell you there are some people, just the fact that they have to fill up a form, they stop. They don't even want to go through it because for them it's too complicated already. I'm not
Yes.
suggesting it's complicated, but for them
Yes.
it's complicated. So
Yeah.
suddenly you are reducing, potentially your customers coming. And then you have the other people that they are not vaccinated and they will not be vaccinated. So they're going to go in other destinations just by choice, or people that don't want to deal with a mask,
Right.
wearing, or the risk of going back and being prisoner on the island because they get caught coming positively on the island. So
Right.
there is still a lot of regulation, hurdles, and competition outside that from the get-go, we already know we are not going to be at the best for the summer. There is no question. Then
Okay.
you add to that, so from the visitor has to make a decision, and then there is the airline. Currently, when we measure based on what is posted right now on the DOT and so on, how many airlines are coming, we are somewhere between 65 to 70% of the capacity of seating capacity that we had back in 2019. So obviously, if we have 40% less plane, that means we'll have
Yes.
40% less occupancy, you know,
Correct.
so it will be divided, but we already have other limitation coming to make us. And then when you look at the detail of the airline, usually in the summertime, our business has a tendency to shift from the northern states, you know, the New York, Chicago, and so on, and shift further in the south, you know, the Texas, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia. No, here there is a double complexity. Is one of those states are, for them, regulation, they forget about it. They don't even know that. They have never been necessarily the best one at getting vaccinated. So as the summer comes and we have those destinations, usually are big market feeder for us in the summertime.
Yes.
So now
Yes.
we have those states that are resistant even more to
Right.
vaccination, even more to tasting and anything like that. And we also have less plane currently coming. Like if you look at currently online, American Airlines used to have a daily flight from Dallas, which is a very
Yes.
strong market feeder in the summer. And right now, if you look online, unless they change or that somebody
It's
else pick up the flight, there is only one week. So that's basically that flight is 15% capacity of what it
right.
was,
Yeah.
2 years ago. So all those combinations create clearly a little bit of anxiety. So when we look at the summertime and we kind of we speak with our colleague where we are, there is a lot of uncertainty. How far
Okay.
can we maintain occupancy? You know, some people are more optimistic looking at that 50, 60%. Some of the people don't see it climbing over 40%. And then the same thing from the condominium and so on. So a lot of the hesitation right now on what is going to be the best summers we can do. So right now, the big focus for us, because now we are starting to have more employees coming back on the island, is how we're going to be able to sustain a business
Okay.
through the summer and being able to make sure that all our employees are able to to sustain themselves, survive, because the check, the occupancy is not going to be the same level, the grads is not going to be the same
Yeah.
level, and the cost of living is going higher. So
Oh,
those combinations are not very
yes.
friendly.
If I may interject here, actually, I didn't want to get into a COVID conversation, and actually, we're planning to have the acting chief medical officer on next week, and there were some questions that we're going to ask her. And my main question is, when will the all clear be given, and if she can give an indication, and what's stopping us from moving that direction? Because what I'm hearing is that the restrictions that are in place are to protect us. And so, therefore, we have to have a balance where, okay, yes, we want to get the industry moving, and we're talking about that right now. But of course, we have to be on the other side where we are seeing increased cases. Is increased cases enough reason for concern to change the minds or change the policies that may have come forward the next month and a half? And so, if you're talking about getting into summer where we have less restrictions, we're going to have a similar situation we had last year where we wait too late, and then everybody's already booked for someplace else, and the whole summer is gone. So something has to be done within the next couple of weeks for us to even try and salvage this summer that we're talking about.
Correct.
And so, have you had those conversations yet with the authorities or the people in charge?
Yes, and I can tell you that the difference of opinion, obviously,
Okay,
because we
right.
have different optic. I think that there is a risk. There is no question that there is always a risk that when you start to open more and lower regulation, there is always risk of increase of cases.
Yes.
But I think that, and that has been my argument, is we have done everything on this island to be prepared for that, and that's why we all get vaccinated. Actually, I have my number 4 shot on my arm, so you know,
Wow.
and
Yes.
so yeah, you have 4 of them now. so
I have three.
so so I mean, when you think about our industry, our population, when you look at the numbers from the adult population, we probably way above 90%. If you just look at the adult
Yeah.
population vaccinated of some kind, and we can see that currently, when you look at the data and what is happening, yes, the cases are potentially coming back because there is always a new variant, but how many people really are going to the hospital. And I think that is the victory of this island, is that we have through the obviously the proactive and tough decision that the government made, and the support of the vaccination and so on, we are prepared for it, because you can see that the number of people hospitalized are very low. Therefore, that despite those go up and down, we don't have the same concern. I mean, I personally don't have the same concern when I travel around and so on than other destinations, because other destinations are still struggling with their level of vaccination. We don't. So the impact now is more about economy, because it is true that when, it happened in our own hotel, where sometimes we have clusters of employees suddenly, because they work so close together, they get sick together. So it becomes an economic burden for us as operator. But that is our concern. It should not be the concern of the health public. It's more, can we operate? And maybe a restaurant that is only have 3 employees and they are all sick at the same time, they're going to have to close their restaurant for 2 weeks. But that is a business risk, not a health risk. So I think we need to shift the conversation from what is the health risk to the population to what is the economic risk to the businesses, and then businesses make decision based on that, not the government making decision for us.
Okay. Can I ask you to hold right there for me? It's a very interesting conversation. I want to go deeper in, but we got to do make an announcement. It's 1:30 on a wonderful Thursday afternoon. The sun is shining, and you're in tune with Cayman Conversations. And we're here Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. till 2. Tuning on Bobo FM 89.1 or our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, Caymanian Times. But don't forget, pick up our Friday newspaper. We'll have an article on the conversation we had this week with CIS. And next week, Wednesday, we'll have this same conversation here talking about tourism and the impact that we're going to talking about that COVID is having on it. But thank you for joining us. If you're just joining us, welcome. And just share it with your friends and like the page so you get reminded next week. But Cayman Conversations, real topic and real people. All right, let's talk about the people. We are saying that, some of us are scared to get sick, and our families and our friends. And business people are scared to shut down. And we see some people will not opening up because they're not sure whether they'll be able to survive. They have staff, and like you said, if all my staff get sick or 2 of my staff get sick, I gotta close the doors because there's no one to serve my clients. So just pick up from where you left off regarding that topic for me, please, man.
Yeah, so I mean, there is different level of risk. There is the health risk, and I think that if anything, we need to be more vigilant for those people who are really at risk, people who have low immune system and so on. And I think currently wearing the mask or not wearing the mask, it becomes a gimmick, because when I look at the way people are wearing the mask, it has nothing to do with any medical prevention. People put their mask, put them in their pocket, hold them in their hands, put them on their desk. So I don't think that he has any proactive, very few value from the protection point of view. So I think that there are certainly some area, especially in the medical field, or people, dealing with elderly and so on. If anything, I think that that should be reinforced even stronger if there is weaknesses, in the system, because the true risk factors. Now, obviously, we have risk every day. We take a risk when we drive our cars, when we walk outside, when we eat, there is risk all the time, So, and I think right now, when you look at, based on the fact that the population is such a high level of vaccination, based on the fact that our visitors are also vaccinated, based on the fact that, the test and everything is so abundant, and I think there is, I can see it's happening in our environment where people recognize the sign now. I mean, it's we, for example, in our resort, we do random testing, and sometimes we catch people and we know what to do. We send them home. They do they go do their PCR test, and they come back to work maybe a week later, and wear the mask when they come back, just to make sure that they are protecting their coworkers. So I think there is I think we are now a certain maturity. If you think about it, 2 years ago we had no idea of what was COVID-19, and we were scared of just even touching a can of food at the grocery store. I think we have evolved, but so I think now we need to also evolve with the regulation and letting a little bit more citizens make their decision on what is their level of risk. When I travel, sometimes I wear my mask and sometimes I don't. Because if I am at the airport in Miami and there is thousands of people come around me and I don't know who they are and we are close to each other at the
Yes.
immigration booth, I'm gonna wear my mask because I don't, even if I am vaccinated, I don't want a new vaccine. I don't want a new cold or nothing. So,
Right. Yes.
but then when I in other area, I will just take it out because I have plenty of room to move and I'm fine. So I think we need to kind of move from that regulation and just like the rest of the world, learning how to, manage our own expectation of what is protection or not. So
Yes.
that's it.
That's,
But the point is, what I'm looking back to the tourism impact because I don't
yes.
want
Mhm.
to make a full show on the wear of mask or not. But the,
But
the,
it's
the
important. It's important, and I'm happy that you were able to, like I said, be candid again and speak about it
yeah,
because we have to be able to talk about these topics that people are thinking about and not just ignoring them. I support relaxing some of the regulations too, but I also, as a media owner, understand people's feelings and I respect people's feelings. And I will say, it's your responsibility to take care of yourself. If you
mhm.
feel that you need to wear a mask every time you go out, you should do so. Don't wait for the government to insist that you do. It's your personal responsibility as well. If you feel like going to a event that has 10,000 people and you feel comfortable with it, go right ahead. But if you don't, stay home, watch the event on TV or on Facebook. Because at the end of the day, it's your personal responsibility.
But we
And your
also have to protect others, and I
others,
agree
yes.
with that because, for example, certain position. If I am a housekeeper
Yes.
and potentially I could be positive. No, I'm going in people's rooms,
Yes.
and I'm gonna spend time there. So there are certain positions that I agree
Right.
there is our responsibility to protect our customers.
Right.
There's some position where, like my loss prevention officer, every day they see hundreds of employees because they are doing the checking and checkout, in the front. So I want to protect that employees, but I also want to protect our employees because what happened if that one officer happened that day to have asymptomatic
Yes.
COVID-19 and he's going to potentially be a risk
Spread.
for hundreds
Yeah.
of employees working for. I think again, it's our decision to figure out
Yes.
where are the risks and apply certain measure. So that is the point that I make. The
Okay.
last week I
Very
had
good.
a big arrival with 300 people arriving at the same time. We had a large conference. Believe me, on the day of arrival, I put my mask because there was too many people in the area.
Right.
Then I wanted to show the example, and that it depends where I am. If
Yes.
I walk in a resort and there is nobody, why would I wear a mask? Because there's nobody around. so
Yes. All right. Okay. Good. So
So
we
let's go
that
back now for the future because the big one. So again, the
yes.
summertime, it's gonna be, ensuring that we do our best foot forward and we create that business model that's gonna allow everybody to things. But now we got to look at the bigger pictures.
Yes.
From what when I talk to the different politicians, people in the things, I believe there is a certain expectation from everybody and from the business that um, we will be back to a certain level. It's not going to be 100%, but I truly believe that we could be to the 80, 90% of what 2019 was, depending on the industry. So, but the concern that I have right now expressed, he says, I'm hearing that, but I'm not hearing, let's do it. And
Okay.
in our business, in our private business, we aim for goals, we set goals.
Yes.
It's just like if you think about last year when we aim for reopening the destination,
Yes.
they had a little bit of a back because they realized the action was not following. Correct? There was
Yes.
a vision, there was no action.
Right.
And I think that we are at the same position right now, but potentially from learning from last year, we should be a little bit more proactive right now.
Yes.
So if we as a community say, yes, we want to be back, and we want to be ready
Yeah.
for that, then I think there is some key issue, and it's not just the Minister of Tourism fighting for that. It's everybody has to be involved because we know that Minister of Tourism is really continuously motivated and trying to push everybody to making decision to reopen for the cruise ship and that and that. So it cannot be just one person, charging with a flag because
Yes.
everybody there is so many uh, things they need to work. It's coming from transport, from regulation, from health. There has to be a common vision for says, okay, do we really want to be in November ready for, to produce the same level of business or better. I'm not suggesting more, but better than what we were back in 2019. And
Yes.
if that is the common vision, everybody has to have a responsibility, and we have to divide to conquer. Private sectors has to be ready for ensuring that their product is ready,
Right.
and public sectors has to, enable it, has to remove some of the hurdles and potentially even facilitate, because
Yes.
it's a complex environment that need to be all aligned. The most important is obviously that we send such a strong message that our customers rebuild the trust that they will come.
Yes.
But with them is our travel agent, because if the travel agent has any hesitation, because, oh, a year ago when we said we're open, we're not open, but we're open, but we had regulation, then we are losing, that confidence, the trust, and that comes with the airline too. We see
Yes.
currently there is hesitation for good reason for
Mhm.
airlines to put flights or not flights. That's why we are
Yes.
not at 100% of our capacity, but at 60 or 70%. And some airlines are changing and canceling and moving. So that is not going to allow us to sustain a strong business if we cannot instill trust. Trust will come with a certainty and a vision that is very firm. So if we agree on that vision, and believe me, I agree on the vision. I want
Yes.
that. A
Yes.
lot of operators want that. Now suddenly we also instill trust in our businesses, because everybody's gonna have to step up. Right
Yes.
now we are all equipped at that 60, 70% plan. And I can tell you some boat operators are working 2 boats out of 3. Some restaurants are working 5 days out of 7, so, or some such a volume.
Yes.
There are going to be some needs of, potentially reinvestment in our product. I mean, I can tell you, we're talking to boat operators, they need to change the engine to their boat, they need to
Yeah.
redo their leather, they need
Yeah.
to potentially have, change the tires on their taxis, or, everybody is going to have to repaint, change furniture. But nobody's going to want to make those commitment unless there's a certain insurance that
Yes.
we are all committed to that vision. So that is for me the most important. We have to believe in it, we have to commit to it all together, and says it will happen. If not, everybody's going to be on the fence, and
Yes.
nothing is going to happen at the end. So we got to have that strong commitment.
And I just want to stretch your point a bit and the concept and the understanding and widen that net a bit. But I agree that we have to all be on the same page if we want to move forward. And I will go further to say that our economic survival depends on the whole country working together, not just the private sector or the tourist industry, but everyone, the government, even the residents. Everyone has to understand that we are all in this together. We spoke briefly about the cost of living. That is a serious thing. And if you look at utility emails, they're reminding everyone in the next 2 months or so, your utility bills will increase. And what we just saw yesterday and is in effect today is that the interest rates in the banks have gone up 0.5%. That's a big blow to a lot of people, but they don't understand it. Some people understand it, but if your interest rates on your mortgages and loans have increased, that means your repayment at the end of the month is going to be more, which means your disposable income is going to be reduced. That's just one of many things. So we have to understand how these things that are happening around us and the world is impacting the cost of living here. And there's still people who want to do business and hold business who want to improve. And we are dependent in the tourist industry on the tourists coming. That's why it's called tourist industry. And so therefore, if the tourists have little roadblocks or little bumps in the road that prevents them from coming or choosing other destinations, it can impact us. And right now, I mean, money is not king, but it is part of life, and we need it to survive. So I totally agree that we need to get together on the same page if we want the same outcomes. It's not one man for himself; everyone has to be there.
Yeah, and I can tell you that even with our best effort, it's not going to be the same outcome. Because first of all, there will be a small erosion no matter what
Yes,
we do, because of the change of the environment and so on, but also because of cost of operations are going to change.
yes,
And that is one of the concerns that I really people to realize is that um, there is going to need some investment. everybody's going to have to invest. It doesn't matter if it's from the human capital point of view, from the
Right.
selection, from the training development. There are going to be some cost, and then there is going to be some cost in the product, for people to reinvest in their product. We cannot put out of the box or out of the dock a boat that was left 2 years
Yes.
on the dry and assume it's going to be working when you as soon as you turn the engine.
Of course.
So there is going to be some cost, but the problem is not all that industry has been hurting for the last 2 years. We have not made the cash that has been able to
Yes.
create reserve for all those business. People are willing to invest, but it's going to be at a higher cost. Not only they don't have the money, but to buy an engine today for your boat, you might have to spend actually 20% more. So I'm hoping
Yes.
that we can work collaboratively with the government to allow reinvestment and potentially find mechanism
Yes.
to reduce all the duty fees that's going to be imposed on those costs. Because realistically, if the cost goes 20 or 30% higher, because that's what it is right now, we see that on cost of food, cost of equipment, material. That means that because the fees that the government makes for the duties is based on the cost of sales, they are going to make automatically more money. So could it be that they could reduce for the relaunching of our economy based on certain criteria, ensuring that it's investment made for the product of the tourism or so on? Could they help the industry to put them back, bring back their best product they can for the fall by support them, by allowing them some credit or some type of support so that those business can really invest in their product, repainting their restaurant or repainting their boat,
Yes.
and so on and so on, and allowing our businesses to get back to the best we can when we go for the winter. And then we're gonna have to ensure at the same time, the product has to be good, product has to be sometimes reinvented, but we also have to make sure that it's audited. I want to make sure that when we put somebody in a taxi, the taxi has a car as an insurance. Because honestly, I
Yes.
don't know. Because right now, the boat
Yes.
insurance, the car insurance,
Insurance. Yeah.
the liability insurance,
Yes.
all those licensing and so on, that should be things. Because again, our industry has been dormant for two
Right.
years,
Yes.
and so we are going to have to create back an accountability to make sure that
Yes.
we are the best we can from the product point of view, for the liability insurance and so on. So there is so many things to do. We're also going to have to review our processes. If we are serious, with the airport processes, because
Right.
currently with so many, you know, new process that was added through the COVID-19,
Yes.
we need to review those. Are they the best we can do? Can we do better for that the
Yes.
experience the customers is better? So again, you can keep on looking and how, you know, all those hurdles that we have. There is a lot of work to be
Yes.
done from all parties. Some of them is government, some of them is private sectors, some of them, is processes, some of them is money, some of them is training. There is a lot of work,
Yeah.
but before
Yes.
we can do to that plan, we gotta, divide, conquer, have a vision, and moving forward for that.
Yes.
My vision will be that, we have a better product when we reopen in November. Our customers are dying to come back, and when they come, we just, wow them. They arrive as wow, because many have not seen the new airport. Our road system, our infrastructure is beautiful. There has
Yes.
been a lot of new growth, so we got to make sure that everything else is up to that.
Yes, I agree. In the past discussions that we've had, I'm not sure we spoke with you about it, but my colleagues and I, we spoke about COVID czar, somebody who is responsible for dealing with the COVID situation. I think we now need a reopening czar, someone who's responsible for the reopening, because closing the country was hard, but reopening is going to be harder and it's going to be longer. And of course, with what has taken place in the last 2 years, what we find out is that the government really will be stretched in its resources to just shell out more money or spend money where they really can't. And so they have a challenge, I think, to figure out how they're going to deal with it. And sometime we hope to hear from the government on how it's going to happen. But we know that in some of the stuff you mentioned, that, you know, I think we're not seeing the full picture, and we will never see it until the time comes closer But to be able to get to that point, you're talking about preparing ourselves to be able to provide a level of service. We're saying we want tourists back, but we have to be able to get in the level of service that they got before. And we have to put a premium on top of that. So they were like, wow, after all this, this is what I'm getting, but we cannot drop the standards at all. And so, how do we reopen, maintain the standards, improve the standards with less money? And the challenges that we have to figure out.
Yeah. But you're talking about the czar at the time we were looking at that. It was because there was a very small, narrow objective. I think
Yes.
we have shown in the last 2 years that tourism is not just narrow; it's very wide, very
Yeah.
broad. Because
Yeah.
it's an industry that might only represent 25% of the finance of the island and the government, but the reality has much deeper ramification in the society and especially into the class that is small entrepreneurs and so on, and the family and so on. It's a very deep. For me, it's not a czar we need. We need actually
Okay.
the government, because that is what they are paid for, and the head of the
Yes.
government is
Okay.
called the premier, not a czar.
Okay.
And that is a leadership that I would
Yes.
like to see applied to the decision to bring back the island back to its best. So it has to have a collaborative approach because everybody has a part to it. The minister of the budget has to be in line. The
Yes.
minister of tourism has to be in line. The commerce has to be in line. The health has to be in line. The education has to be in line.
Yes.
I don't think that is one of those ministers can do the job by itself. So therefore, I'm looking, at the top
Yes.
and says, okay, let's lead the example the same way that was done last year. Let's do it again. Let's put, everybody working together, public servant,
Yes.
politician, and then believe in that vision and make it happen.
I like to look at things on both sides. If we were to lose some of that winter business, how would it hurt us?
Which part of the business?
The winter business, yes.
Oh, no,
there's
you cannot even think about that. You cannot even think about it. It's not reasonable
in
to think.
in
There is
previous
no, and there is no reason.
okay,
Uh,
in
you
previous
know,
discussions, we spoke about what we lost. We had to look right off last year's winter season, and I remember having discussions with you that we cannot think about winter last year anymore. We have to look at January going forward, and so
yeah,
we're now at May. It's not too far from November, and we have a lot of things to get in place before then to make it happen. So my thought is that, okay, what's at stake here? Maybe if we understand exactly what's at stake here to lose a second winter season, it will sort of make us push harder or make it happen.
I don't think we are at stake to lose what we
Okay.
have,
Okay.
because I think everybody has moved forward. Unless there was a
Okay.
huge, suddenly a new pandemic wave that is killing millions
Yes.
of people in the world, I don't think we are at that level. There is no question in my mind that we will be better. The question
Okay. Good.
will we be at our best? And it is a difference between saying, oh, it's good enough, or we are back to greatness. And that is a decision. We can just go, every month making a little decision, a little move, and just move ourselves forward. And some people will
Yes.
be successful, and some people will be less successful. Or do we decide we're all going to be successful? And that,
Yes. Okay.
because everybody has ramification. There is larger hotel, there is condominium, but everybody after that is pending on that success.
Yes.
People are looking to pay back bills that they have,
There's
loans that
employment.
they
There's
have, and so
employment.
on. And the cost of living
Yes.
by itself is going to increase. The inflation is real. When we look at the cost of food that we are experiencing right now, the steak
Yes.
is growing 20 to 30%. Everything
Wow.
is growing, every product, every basic. So I don't think there is an alternative to say we're going to stop, because when your cost goes up and you have to go to the grocery store, and instead of paying $300, you're going to pay $400 for the same items, you need more money, not less,
Yeah.
or not the same. You need more.
Yeah.
And the same thing for everything that the government wants to do in the future. It all costs money. And I don't think there is an option not to grow from there. So
Okay.
why don't we prepare ourselves to be at our best? And that is the point. Are
Okay.
we going to just say, let's see how it's going to be, or are we going to decide what it's going to be?
Yes. Okay, and be proactive. Be proactive. Well, I like your tone of, and I like your positive nature because I believe in positivity as well, and I wish for the best for the for this industry. It really is part of what happens in the Cayman Islands. It's not a small. It's not the second industry. I look at it as a core industry. There's banking and there's tourism, and they're all important. Yes, maybe the revenue from one maybe higher than the other, but they're actually people that depend on tourism. Because, and like you said, everybody is impacted by what happens in our tourist industry. Cayman's a very small place, and we have to make it work. Do you have any idea of what other countries or jurisdictions have done to deal with this? And you mentioned like I think Bahamas and other places have moved away from certain regulations. Do you know have idea what they've done to help their people move forward and help businesses get ready? And the same thing challenge we're facing. You have idea of how they've dealt with that?
Well, I mean, a lot of other jurisdictions have certainly enjoyed our business. A lot of our customers move some other places. So
Yes.
it doesn't mean that it was the right things for those countries. Just they were under different, pressure, economic
Yes.
pressure. And sometimes, there is no question that some of those countries moved too fast and then didn't make the right decision, or they were their best decision because they had, other financial implications. So what happens in the past is the past,
Yes.
and we can critique it all day long, but we'll take another show for that. But
Yeah.
it's not very interesting. I'm not very interested in looking
No.
what happened right now. What I'm more interested in is with what we have, where we are, the way we have been handling ourselves. I believe
Right.
that we are in better position to providing a better experience to the most affluent customers. So let's make it happen, and let's move forward and take advantage of what the new position we have, because there are also customers, they might trust more our destination because of all the things we've done.
Yes.
And they, so they will be attracted to come back, and knowing that, because some of the destination, yes, opened faster and took some risk that backfire, honestly. So
Yes.
let's look where we are, create that vision for the fall, and let's look at all those things that need to be in place to do the best winter. That is really my key um, message that I'm going to send to our membership, CETA membership, so that they really have and be ready to say, okay, let's put our past behind and let's believe in the future. But I need at the same time the support of the community, of the government, of the public servant, to have that same vision, so that we don't have too many hurdles and we improve everything together.
Yeah, and I can give an example. I heard this the other day regarding decisions and how it impacts people. For example, the government recently removed the requirement to register on Travel Cayman for residents and Caymanians, and a number of people all of a sudden bought the tickets. They're ready to travel because they know that they wouldn't have to register on Travel Cayman to come back in. They said, "Well, I have a vaccination already. Why don't I?" So that requirement helped a lot of people say, I'm going to travel this week. If they were to say, okay, well, you have to test, before you come back, I can see that doubling again because, for example, like I said, if I travel to another country that doesn't even require me to test to go there, and just before I'm coming back home, I go and test positive, I'm stuck in that country for maybe a week, instead of being back home. So that it still exists. Whether we'll see that being changed in the near future, we don't know yet. But you can see how these things do impact even our local people who want to travel overseas. And so you can imagine how it impacts those people who want to travel here. Because I do believe that the Cayman Islands is still a destination of choice. And we do have a lot of customers who want to come back here. And the quality of their vacation and visit is next to none. I mean, it's hard to find comparisons. You can't compare, of course, Cayman with Las Vegas and other places, but Cayman Islands has a unique touch, a unique feel, a unique life. It's quiet for some people. It's a little extra, maybe too quiet for others, but there's still a huge market. I go to restaurants from time to time, and there are many tourists in there. I visited your location on business the other day, and the guys were telling me, hey, we're full. I think when you had that big group in, maybe that was when it was. But we are seeing activity. And like you said, it may not be where we want it to be, but it will happen. So, just to enforce the point that you're making, or to support the point that we need to have things come together, and we all have the same vision. We're just about maybe 1 minute left. Anything you'd like to say to wrap up?
I just want to say thank you very much for keeping the conversation alive. I think the dangerous part is not to talk about and just getting used to what it is today and without challenging. So I think your show is very important, to bring, to continuously bring back the conversation alive. So I really thank you for inviting me. On one side, I says I'm very positive and optimistic for the future. At the same time, I says we cannot let things happen just like that. We have to make decisions for the future. And then the next show, we need to talk about the longer term,
Of
because
course.
tourism is when things to recover, do the best winter, do the best recovery. But then after that, what should be the position, and what could we do better for the future? Things we don't have time to change in the next 6 months, but there is certainly so many other area in our product, and in our services on the island we could do better, and so that we can continuously grow and be the best tourism industry that we can be.
Thank you, my friend. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for our listeners and viewers. Join us again on Tuesday where we have another wonderful conversation. Thanks for joining Cayman Conversations. My name is Ram Flores. Have a great evening and a great weekend. Goodbye.